Now, guys, let's finish off U U6D1. Notice, just in case you're wondering, there were no videos for Unit 5 because all those lessons were just definitions. Very lame lesson, or very lame unit, and much happier that we're here. Anyway, last part to this is we talked about is weighted mean. Sorry, we talked about mean, we talked about mode, we talked about median, and we looked at different distributions, skewed left, skewed right, normal, and then we talked about what happens in this scenario where you have group data. Okay, so that was the last thing we looked at, group data, where you have intervals. Okay, and you get the average, or you take the middle of the interval and multiply by the frequency. Another type of mean is called weighted mean, and here is your formula for weighted mean. So hopefully this makes a little sense to you. And this is just a short form for weighted mean. You get mean with a little w. And what you do is you take the weights and you multiply it by the number of times they show up. So that is going to be the weight, and that is going to be the number of occurrences at in that area, and then this is going to be the total weight. So let's make sense of that with an example. Here's a situation. You got somebody looking at a job applicant, and you ask them these, you grade them in these areas here: education, job experience, interpersonal skills, communication skills, and references. And then when you're done, you look at it, and so these are the scores. They give them a score between 1 and 5. So this guy comes in, and we give him a 4 for education. He's pretty educated, but he doesn't have much experience, so we give him a 2. He has great interpersonal skills. He likes to talk, and he's good, and people like him. And he also talks a lot. Communication skills are good, and he's got some pretty solid references. Maybe not best, but good. Okay, so we give him a 4, a 2, a 5, a 5, and a 4. And what we do is if one thing you could do is just take the average of them, and from that point, um, uh, compare him to someone else, and say 4 plus 2 plus 5 plus 5 plus 4 divided by 5 is something, and that something is going to be, I think it's 4 on the nose, and that something is going to be his score, so he gets 4. But the company says, you know what, let's not do that, because these are all, we do want to look at all this criteria, and sorry, the word criterion kind of threw me off there. We do want to look at all these criteria, but we don't want to weigh them the same. So what we're going to do is we're going to give them a weight factor. Okay, so references, you know what, references aren't that important, so we're going to have those low. We're going to give them a value of 1. And then education and job experience, those are pretty important, so we'll give them a factor of 2, so the double the weight of reference. But we really think that in our job here in Statsville Marketing Limited, we think that interpersonal skills and communication skills are key and vital for our workforce. I don't know, I'm just making it up. Okay, so anyway, we think they're worth more. These are more valuable, so we give them the highest weight of 3. So what you're going to do now, when you want to give this guy an overall score, what you're going to do is you're going to say, let's go ahead and multiply score times the weight. So 4 times 2, and then plus 2 times 2. And we do that for each of these. So we take the weight and we multiply it by the score. So there's your weight and there's your score, okay? Or your value or whatever it is. In this case, it's an actual score, right? Because that's what we call it here, score. And you add them all up, and it'll be 5 times 3, 5 times 3, 5 times, or 4 times 1. Add them all up, and you get a number. Now, that's going to be a lot, and then that's going to be a lot bigger number than before, because you're doubling these values, and you're doubling these values, you're tripling these and tripling these, and that's the same. So what you have to do now is, instead of dividing by 5, you divide by the sum of the weight. Okay, so you add these all up, and there are 2 and 2 and 3 and 3 and 1, so 11, and you divide that by 11, and you get a number. Okay, this guy here is going to gets a number. I can't remember what it is exactly, but it's higher than 4, because you look at, one way to look at this real quick is the things that they weigh really highly are things that he's good at. Okay, so it's higher than 4, and that's that. Okay, and that is, I mean, that's what does happen when you apply to different schools, right? Think about this. You might have you know, that you have a score out of 100 for your grades. Okay, so maybe you have 80s in grades, and then you might write an essay, and they give you a score out of 100 for that, and you get 90 on your essay, and then references maybe your, I don't know, other stuff. Maybe there's a form that you fill out, and you talk about your contributions to the school, and you don't do as well with that, you get 50. Okay, but this school here says, look, we don't really care about references that much. We'll give that a weight of 1. This is pretty important. This extracurricular thing is important. So we'll give that a weight of 2. But the most important thing is the grades. We think that we want grades are the things that produce the kids we want. So we'll give that a weight of 5. Okay. So what you do here is you go 80 times 5, 90 times 1, 50 times 2, add those together, and the 5 plus 1 plus 2 plus 8 divided by 8, figure out your total score. Okay. And that's weighted mean or weighted average. We called it here weighted mean, but weighted average is the exact same thing. Okay. And that's all I got for you. Try the homework. It's not that tricky. This stuff's not that bad. Okay. You know most of it from previous years. Anyway, take care.